Let's talk about some wrestling. So this weekend, AEW Full Gear. Kenny Omega headlines the show defending the AEW World Championship against Hangman Adam Page. Former tag team champions, former friends. A storyline that's been built up for about 3 years at this point. We're going to talk about on this video why Hangman Page must win the title. He must win this weekend. Adam Hangman Page has to beat Kenny Omega at Full Gear. And I'll talk about why on this video using some of my, 31 years watching pro wrestling and studying it to tell you what's going to happen here or what should happen, okay? So Tony Khan is a historian of wrestling. He's only 2 years older than me. And I think we probably started watching close to around the same time. So he understands wrestling to a degree, even though I don't agree with every choice he makes. So he has to understand that having Hangman Page not beat Kenny Omega is a big mistake. I'm going to talk about why. First of all, when Hangman was first getting pushed into this spot, it was over the summer. And if you remember, it was over the summer that the news started to come out about CM Punk and Bryan Danielson coming over to AEW. And so I thought that what they were going to do is postpone the Hangman Kenny match for sometime in 2022, maybe Double or Nothing, and instead do the CM Punk and Bryan Danielson matches on pay-per-view, because having Punk and Omega and Bryan and Omega on pay-per-view, former WWE guys, legends in their respective ways, against Kenny Omega, the champion, to me draws money. But instead, Tony Khan is sticking with his original plan of having Hangman Page win. And Hangman, of course, would come back after his child was born, win the casino ladder match, and get the title shot. Now, this storyline with Omega and Hangman Page goes back really 3 years. I was at AEW All Out 2019, and the main event of that show was Chris Jericho versus Hangman for the AEW Championship. It was the first AEW Championship match, and Chris Jericho won. So here we have Hangman, who at the time was not as over as he is now, but he was the guy who was handpicked by AEW to eventually be a big star, a big top guy, and he does not get the job done. Jericho wins, and that's fine. That is okay, because Jericho had just got done beating Kenny at Double or Nothing. So this would, of course, build up to eventually Jon Moxley beating Jericho, and then Hangman Page. And then Omega beating Jon Moxley after Omega defeated Hangman Page in the finals of the tournament last year. So that would, of course, be like shortly after will be the falling apart of Omega and Hangman as a tag team, who were a great tag team in 2020. It's unfortunate that the pandemic kind of stopped them from performing in front of people, but it is what it is. The storyline of Hangman's redemption has to unfold the right way. The storyline of Hangman, because you have to remember what happened. Hangman was a member of the Elite. The Elite went heel, and Hangman did not want to go heel. He did not want to give up who he was as a man. He didn't want to give up his identity. And so because of that, the Elite pretty much just kind of turned on him. And Omega's ego got out of control. And Hangman, of course, stayed humble. Now, the story here, and the reason as to why Hangman has to win, is because if Hangman does not win, it could cripple him as a babyface in the eyes of the fans. Let's look at pro wrestling history. Let's go back to 1988. Lex Luger was starting to get red hot. He wrestled Ric Flair at the Great American Bash. People thought he was going to win and get the title. He did not get the title. He won by disqualification. Why? Because they felt at the time that they could push it back to Starrcade and then have Luger become triumphant at Starrcade. But by the time Starrcade happened, Luger's overness kind of went down a bit, and the plans changed, and so Ric Flair wound up retaining. And because of that, Luger as a babyface was pretty much ruined for quite some time. And then Luger would, of course, go heel and have another run. And it wasn't until 91 that he would become world champion. But if you remember, that was the night at the Great American Bash 91 against Barry Windham that the whole crowd chanted, "We want Flair, we want Flair," ironically enough. And of course, Luger would be a heel at the time when Harley Race would turn and he would join Harley Race. Well, he turned and joined Harley Race. Then in 1993, here we go again. Lex Luger with the Lex Express was starting to get over. Don't let anybody fool you. Don't let people who talk about wrestling fool you in that, yes, Lex Luger was not Hulk Hogan, but he was really getting momentum against Yokozuna. SummerSlam 93 rolls around. They decide we're going to postpone the finish till WrestleMania and let Yokozuna have a longer title run. And because of that, Luger wins by countout. And then celebrates like a dork in the ring, even though the contract stipulation that Jim Cornette had put together, who was managing Yokozuna at the time, prevented him from getting a rematch. So Luger got into a feud with Ludwig Borga and then won the 94 Royal Rumble with Bret Hart. They were co-winners, but then he fails again at WrestleMania 10. And then Luger was supposed to feud with Mr. Perfect, but the Lloyds of London thing, I believe, stopped it from happening. So then Luger feuds with Tatanka and ends up on the mid-card for the rest of his WWF run until he wound up on Nitro the very next year. That's why they call it the Lex Luger push, because you can't get a babyface hot. You can't have this storyline building and building and building for years that they have had planned and then have Adam Page lose again. He already lost his first title shot in 2019 against Jericho. If he loses again, what's going to happen is he's not going to look credible in the eyes of the fans, and they're going to have no choice but to turn him heel at some point, which I don't think he should do, because if you watch the promo he cut on Dynamite a few weeks ago, that was an incredible babyface promo. This guy knows how to be a babyface. And nowadays, in the current wrestling climate where most fans are very cynical, everyone knows it's a work, and it's a lot different than it was even 20 years ago. Because of that, you can't have a guy who knows how to cut a promo like this and squander him. It's a better idea to use him properly and to fulfill his destiny by becoming champion. Now, whether or not he loses to Bryan Danielson right after, or MJF or whomever later on, that's not the story here. The story is Adam Page has to overcome the Elite. He has to overcome all the odds, all of the odds being stacked against him, all the brick walls that Omega and the Elite have thrown at him for him to become the champion, and he's going to have to do it. And yes, I do think that I believe that Hangman should kick out of the One-Winged Angel. It's been very protected. Nobody in AEW's kicked out of it. I think Okada may have kicked out of it, but I don't remember. Somebody told me he didn't. I haven't seen those matches in a while, but the One-Winged Angel, regardless, has been very, very protected. You gotta have Hangman kick out of the One-Winged Angel, and that leads to Kenny Omega being shocked and being, his mind cracks. It's a classic moment in wrestling when the heel realizes that he's screwed because the babyface just kicked out of his big coup de grace, and he's gonna be just like shocked and just, because not many wrestling finishers nowadays are protected. Guys kick out of everything, right? We see it a billion times. We saw guys like Roman Reigns and Lesnar, especially Lesnar, kicking out of John Cena's finishers just with one counts. Finishing moves have been diluted in a way, except for the One-Winged Angel, one of the few ones protected. So you gotta have him kick out of it. Have Kenny Omega be mentally broken. He's going to be so shocked that he loses his confidence, and that leads to Hangman Page becoming the World Heavyweight Champion. To me, they have no other choice but to do this. Even if they, normally they could have a thing where maybe a heel, like an Adam Cole or somebody, costs him the match, and then he goes and feuds with that person for a while and then comes back to the title. But I feel like with Adam Page, they've already done that. And I think that in this case, you can't have him continue to get tries and fail. Look what happened to Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns, they tried to get over as the next big star. He couldn't beat Lesnar at Mania 31. They pushed him against Triple H at Mania 22, but by then it wasn't really the same. And then by Mania 34, they were going to coronate him again, and he winds up, they changed the finish. Brock wins. And again, the fans just lost so much confidence in him that despite him coming back after getting leukemia and getting cheered, they had to turn him heel, and they did so in 2020. And he's a great heel. Don't get me wrong. And he will be a great babyface at some point. But you just can't have your big hero not be triumphant because the fans are going to give up on him. And now they're okay with Hangman going down to the mid-card. They've got plenty of other guys. They've got plenty of other guys they can push. They've got Jungle Boy they could push at some point. They've got Bryan, of course. Eddie Kingston, the babyface. They got John Moxley when he comes back. They got tons of guys. But to me, Hangman has to be the winner here. Hangman has to defeat Kenny Omega Saturday night at AEW Full Gear. I think if they don't have him win the title, it's going to be a huge disservice to Hangman's career, and I think it's going to really slow down his development as being a top guy. To make him a fortified, legitimate top guy. Plus, I feel like the Elite as a heel act on top is kind of like, I mean, they're great workers, but I feel like they kind of have to shift gears a bit now, and it would be better if they focused on other things instead of just protecting Kenny. And I think that could work out to have a more interesting angle. I think that in 2022, we could have Kenny go babyface again and feud with Adam Cole for control of the Elite. Something like that could happen. Not right away, but you build to it. But I think either way, it's probably better to not have Kenny Omega as champion. He could win it back later on, but I think it's better to have Adam Page beat him here, and then we move on with the continuation. He can get rematches if they want, but they have to have him win here, dude. They cannot bait and switch the fans. This has to be a victory for Adam Hangman Page. You've built it up for a long time. It's going to be a satisfying victory for his fans. It must happen. Don't Lex Luger this guy, Tony Khan. Don't Lex Luger him. Don't Roman Reigns him, dude. Push him, give him the title, and then go from there. That's what I think. Hope you agree. If not, well, I'm not going to agree with you because my heart is very set on this. It must happen. But, hey, everyone has to write their own opinion. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you guys actually very soon because this Saturday I am going to be doing a review of the show after it ends. So come back after the pay-per-view. We'll be talking about the pay-per-view here on World of Geekdom, and should be fun. Talk to you soon.